Welcome back, everybody, to Hard Hat Talks, the podcast where we dive into the world of construction, innovation, and business growth. I'm your host, Samuel Velasco. Construction is one of the most dangerous industries in the world. According to OSHA, 1 in 5 worker deaths in the U.S. occurs in construction. Even more concerning, about 60% of these fatalities come from what they call the fatal four: the falls, struck by incidents, electrocutions, and caught in between accidents. So today we have an expert in the house, Leo Saldierna, the Director of Safety at Ace Avant Concrete Construction. He's here to share valuable insight on building a safety-first culture in concrete construction. So, Leo, if you wanted to say hey.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Leo, how did you get into the field of construction safety?
So let me start from the beginning. So my whole family's been in construction since I was a kid. I remember when I was 15, I got the opportunity to work with my father. Doing pouring concrete, setting forms, kind of like the work. I like getting the paycheck. Honestly, I was 15 years old at the time, making $500-$600, and I remember telling my father, I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna quit school. I want to work full time." And he's like, hit me in the back of my head. He's like, "You're crazy. You can go back to school and graduate," which I'm glad he did. Fast forward a few years, I joined the military. I deployed to Iraq for about a year and came back and didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. And I knew I wanted to do construction. So I went to college, community college, for about a year. I wanted to be a civil engineer, and bills started piling up. And I was going to go into the oil field with my cousin down in Texas, but then I just decided to go into construction nearby. My daughter was here. I didn't want to leave away from my daughter. So my uncle called me one day and he's like, "Hey, we need somebody here in one of the crews in Ace Avant." So 13 years ago, I started on the crew as a labor driver. Safety wise, I started as a laborer. I became a carpenter a few years later, then an assistant foreman, then a foreman. And then one day, Richard Wheeler, which he was the previous director here, which he still works here. He just stepped down and I took over. He came up to me and he's like, "Well, how would you like to be safety one day? Potentially taking over his position as director in Ace Avant." I said, "Yeah, I would like to do that." So it was put in the works, and I didn't see an opportunity growing in the production side. So I kind of took the whole safety route, and I took my OSHA 510 for my 500. And they're like, "Okay, we're going to put you helping our other safety guy on a pharmaceutical job," which, if all the safety guys know, a pharmaceutical is one of the hardest, and refineries are the hardest, when it comes to safety. And they just threw me into the lion's den, and I had to learn real quick.
First off, thank you for your service. You definitely have a big job to handle now, I'm assuming, right? Making sure these guys get home safe.
Yeah, so now I'm in charge of 350 employees. They get home safe to their families, so that's the most important part of my job.
What are the biggest safety challenges in concrete construction today?
Biggest challenges? It's hard to say. When you're talking about compliance-wise, just getting the guys the right information, getting the guys to do the basic, which is wearing their PPE. I think that's the biggest. When it comes to like crane regulations, all these regulations, I think we're on top of that. We do have a good safety culture on that, but it's just the small things that is a struggle, everyday struggle of just trying to get that precise information out there to the guys.
Do you think they follow it as best as they can, or do they try to cut corners?
They try to cut corners, which I used to do the same thing when I was out there, right? But when I was a foreman, I made sure it got done, in a safe way. You cut corners. It's kind of weird, but you could cut corners, but doing it in a safe way and by planning and stuff. So
absolutely. So what are the most common job site hazards that the workers face, you think?
For our industry, hand injuries.
Hand injuries.
Hand injuries, hitting you can't really prevent it from happening. Hitting your finger with a hammer. I've done it a couple of times. A couple of nails fell off my fingers. I think for the most part, that and back injuries, which we're doing physical labor out there, and it's really hard to prevent that. So what we're trying to do is mitigate that by doing stretch and flexes in the morning, trying to educate the guys to make sure, hey, do your stretches. Even right after lunch, do a little bit of stretching, and just be aware of your surroundings as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's good practice.
Yeah. So I think the big thing that guys don't like doing it because it looks weird. And that's all it is. It's just for them, it just looks weird. They're not used to it and they think it's ridiculous. But I remember being at that pharmaceutical job where you had to do stretch and flexes, you had to do that. And we did not have one back injury at all in the 2 years we were on that job site. So
So how has safety evolved in the industry over the past decade? Like, what do you think? Is there like new technology, new practices that you guys use now that you didn't use before?
I think it's been more of training. Training in the last 10 years has really grown in Ace Avant. Before we didn't get that, and it was hard because our previous director didn't have the support. I do have 3 safety guys that go out to the field, and we actually do have a safety training trailer that goes out there to the job sites. Guys could go into the trailer, they could relax. If it's hot outside, we have air conditioning. If it's cold outside, we have a heater in there, big screen, surround sound, and they have the room to do the training without the distractions of the outside job site.
I think you guys just got finished building that, right? Like a couple months ago.
Yeah, a few months ago we got
Yep.
done with it, and right now we're just trying to go out there. And February is for us, and Ace One is fall protection month.
That's interesting, man. So you guys are going to be out there just doing the safety training, different job sites,
Yep, but we're going to focus more on fall protection.
fall protection.
Yeah, no matter what training it is, it's always going to be fall protection out there for this month, and it just along until everybody gets trained up.
Okay. So
Yep.
you got to train up all the 300 people out in the field. I can imagine it's going to take a little while, but that's all right. They need to know this information. It could save their lives one day. What does it take to create like a strong safety culture on the job site? Do you think it starts with the foreman? Just not force it, but set a good example for the laborers.
Exactly. So it's a combination of all that. So the way I see it, the structure wise, is you're talking about your managers in charge of the divisions. If they care about safety and push it downwards to the superintendents, and they push it downwards to the foremans, and then they push it down to the guys on the field. If they all care about safety and the whole procedures behind it, I think it sets a good culture. It's a good safety culture. It
Yeah.
makes my job a lot easier.
Yeah.
Of course.
Mhm.
But and second, we have our guys out in the field coaching the guys out there. Trying to get away from that whole police mentality. I'm not the type of guy that screams. I'm not the type of guy that argues with the guy. If you don't want to do it, I'll get with your foreman. We'll try to coach you if we can. We can disciplinary, and then we'll go from there.
That's great to hear that, you guys are out there. I know a lot of companies, they lack some resources. Like every day there's a new accident.
There's a lot of near misses that come with those before that accident. So that's what we're trying to mitigate, is those near misses and learn from them.
So Leo, what are the most overlooked compliance issues that you see, today?
So for our industry, I would say fall protection, the carpenters, which, I come from in Ace Avant. So when we used to build walls, we use assignment panels for most projects. And you have your fall protection on, and you have a 6-foot lanyard. We used to call them monkey tails, or cola de chango. That's what they call them in Spanish. So there was two lanyards connected to your harness, and you start climbing with them, always 3 points of contact. The thing is that we didn't know at the time, I didn't know at the time, is if I'm 10 feet up in the air, and I'm connected, and if I was to fall, I'm going to hit the ground. So when we do our fall protection training, first of all, we took all the lanyards out of service in Ace Avant, and we use yo-yos only.
You guys don't use lanyards anymore then?
No, we don't use lanyards. If it's something where we can use a yo-yo, we use a lanyard, but it's rare occasions. But yo-yos for majority of the guys out there have to wear yo-yos. And when we do our fall protection training, we give them examples on why yo-yos are better than lanyards. So I'd rather fall 2 feet than fall 10 feet.
So where do you see like construction safety or concrete construction safety heading in like the next 5 to 10 years?
So for here in Ace Avant, you've helped me with it is Toolbox Talks, and myself and another safety manager that we have here. We created, I think was 21 videos, English and Spanish. So the guys know that it's us instead of somebody else talking, trying to explain to you how things work. We're explaining to you how to keep you safe out there. That's one of the things that we're implementing here in Ace Avant. And then with the next 5-10 years, hard hats are going to go away, and we're going to go to helmets, type 2 helmets, give you better protection.
I feel like those videos would definitely, give a better visual idea of how to be safe on the job site to all the crews at Ace Avant.
Oh, yeah.
What's one thing every, worker should be doing to improve safety?
Stretch and flex is one of the biggest things you could do for yourself, and communicating potential hazards out there. So if you're walking near a open excavation and you see something that's wrong with it, say something. So the whole of ain't my job kind of thing, that we're trying to change that thing here in Ace Avant. If it's an individual that sees something, say something. You're not going to get in trouble here in Ace Avant. Speak up, call me, call one of the safety managers, and we'll come and help take care of it.
Okay. Nice.
Well, yeah, speaking up is the biggest thing.
Speaking up. Yeah. I feel like that's the easiest too. I mean, if they see something that's not safe, if there's rebar that's sticking out, you can say, hey, let's get some rebar caps and cover that up. Any resources, tools, or certifications you recommend for construction professionals?
Oh, yeah, of course. Here in Ace Avant, so we'll start at the very bottom when it comes to resources and safety. Our OSHA 10, it's a 10-hour class on different subjects and safety. So everybody in Ace Avant is required to get an OSHA 10. Now our foremen are required to get an OSHA 30, which is 30 hours. So, and as myself and the safety managers here, we do a 510 and a 500 course, and those are in-person courses. If you want to go up another level, you're talking about your CHST, which that's what I'm studying for right now.
You're studying for?
Yeah. It's a lot of math involved, and it's been a while since I've been out of school, so
really
I gotta practice. But I'm trying to get that certification this year.
Do you have any final words of wisdom or advice, Leo, before we wrap this up?
Like I said earlier, if you see something, say something. I encourage the foremen to communicate step by step to the guys out there. One thing I do tell the foreman, you're a teacher, right? And how it was back then is like, hey, do it like I said, and that's it, right? And you go about your day like that way. But nowadays, everybody's raised differently. You're talking about different cultures, different times. So I tell the foreman, like, he was raised differently than you. He was raised differently from him, and so on and so on. So I was like, so you got to communicate to that individual differently so he could get the whole process. And when I say the whole process, is the production and the safety wise, because he might learn different from this person, and learn different from how I learned. So that's something I've learned, and I'm trying to push on to the foremans here in Ace Avant. Communicate.
I feel like that's a better perspective for everyone. I mean, if the foremen are acting as teachers, the laborers can look up to them and say, I can, ask him and he won't get mad at me or yell at me.
Hold the light. I remember going out, helping my dad, just going, helping him pour some concrete, and he was strict, but I respect my father. I respect my family that's in this industry, and I respect every person out there that's busting their ass out there, to provide a better life for their family.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for joining us today, Leo. For all the listeners as well, thank you guys for tuning in. This has been a very insightful conversation on the importance of safety in the construction industry, concrete specifically. So if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to Hard Hat Talks and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. And yeah, until next time. So thank you guys.
See ya.
Thank you, Leo.